Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's get started with just some two voice. We'll just have the questioning attorney, the defense attorney, questioning the witness. Get our fingers warmed up. Okay, here we go. Do you remember the conversation you had with Mrs. Bold regarding that? Well, she asked me whether she could hang her clothes, and I said yes. And was that the day she did hang them? Yes. About when was it? Well, the time I do not know. I really don't remember. Where did this conversation take place? It was in my backyard. Was anyone else present at the time? My daughter was there. How old is your daughter? 4. And what did you tell Mrs. Bold about it? I didn't tell her anything about it. Well, did you tell her that she could or could not? I said that she could hang her clothes. And she proceeded to take advantage then of your facilities? Yes. Did you help her the first time that she was there? Yes. She was in a hurry, and I helped her hang them up. At about what time of day was that? Do you remember? Well, it was in the morning. I don't know the exact time. Well, would you say it was 2 hours before noon or an hour before noon? Oh, well, around 9, I guess. And was the dog there at that time? Yes, it was. Incidentally, what kind of dog is this? It's just a dog. How large is the dog? Not very big. Would you say he is 2 feet high if he is standing on 4 legs? Gosh, I don't know. Do you know how heavy the dog is? No, I don't. I have never weighed it. Approximately how old is the dog? Around 9. I don't know exactly. All right, so now let's do a little practice with the transcript, and we will have, looks like, well, maybe not. Maybe we'll just have the one attorney for a little bit. Looks like the defense probably doesn't pop in for a little while, but we'll see. So we'll start with the plaintiff. Okay, where was he staying at that time that the accident occurred? I believe in Atlanta. Did you ever live with Mr. Majors? No. Had you ever known Mr. Majors to be arrested for any kind of felony? Yes. Okay, and what kind of felony would that have been? Possession, I believe. Possession of cocaine, marijuana. Okay. That may or may not be a felony depending on the quantity. I don't know. and it's not really for us to go into. I was just trying to find out the status as far as convictions go. So that's the only kind of criminal background that you knew Mr. Majors to have. And was that prior? This arrest, we'll call it, for marijuana, was that prior to the time of this accident in 09? Before? Before? Yes. Had you ever known Mr. Majors to use cocaine? No. Even to this day? No. Before the date of this accident back in August, and I'll say August 7th of 2009, had Mr. Majors ever driven that 2006 Toyota Camry? Yes. Approximately how many times before this accident had he driven that vehicle? Approximately 6 to 7 times. Now, prior to the date of the accident, on the 6 or 7 times that he had driven that vehicle, had it been with your permission that he drove that vehicle? No. Had it been with Mr. Bradford's permission that he drove that vehicle? Yes. Did Mr. Bradford have a set of keys to the vehicle? Yes. Did you have a set of keys to the vehicle? Yes. Okay. On the day of this accident, who was, strike that, was there more than 2 sets of keys to the vehicle? No. Okay. On the day of the accident, whose keys, if keys were used, was Mr. Majors using to drive that vehicle? If you know, Arthur's. Did you have knowledge on the day of this accident, prior to the time before the accident occurred? Did you know that Mr. Majors was going to use that vehicle on that day? No. Is the first time that you found out that Mr. Majors had used the vehicle on that day of this accident after the accident had already occurred? I don't understand. Okay, that was a bad question. You indicated that before the accident occurred, you didn't know that Mr. Majors was driving the vehicle on that date. Is that correct? True, yes. At some point on the day of the accident, did you find out that Mr. Majors had driven the vehicle after the accident, but on the day of the accident, right? See what I'm asking? When did you first find out that Mr. Majors had driven the car on the day of the accident? When did I first find out? The day of the accident. Good, thank you. And that was sometime after the accident had already occurred, right? It was later in the day after the accident? Yes. Right? Yes. Okay. Now, did you ever object to Mr. Majors or tell him not to drive this car that was in your name at any time before the accident occurred? Yes. When did this happen that you objected to his driving the car? About a week before the accident. And what did you say, if anything? I told him, and I told Arthur, that I didn't want to be responsible if anything was to happen to the car since my name was on it. What caused you to say that? Because when the time of the accident, when Keith had possession of the car, Arthur was in the hospital. And that's what I said. What I said, you know, while he was in the hospital. Then I felt I should have the car at least, you know. When did Arthur go into the hospital? Around that time. I'm not for sure, but it was around that time. He was in the hospital maybe a week before the accident. And he was in the hospital at the time on the day of the accident too? Yes. What was he in the hospital for? He had somebody ran him over in a car, a hit and run. So you indicated that approximately 1 week before this accident occurred, that we're here talking about today, that you had told Mr. Majors and Mr. Bradford that you didn't want Mr. Majors driving the car because you didn't want to be responsible? Yes. All right, well, that will conclude our Q&A practice. Thank you.